It's like a, is it Blues? No, The Big Comfy Couch. Did you ever watch that as a kid?
Blues?
Was it Blues Clues?
I think so.
Comfy Couch.
Yeah. I forgot about that, man. That's going back.
Yeah, way back. How old are you?
22.
Okay.
I remember seeing that when I was like 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
Then yeah,
So
I haven't heard
made
about
me
it.
a teenager. No,
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun show. I forgot about that.
that was way back in the day. So that was like PBS, like
Yes.
PBS Kids, like
Yep.
didn't really have like. Did you have cable television?
No, but like we got 2 channels, and that was like one of the channels that we
Okay,
got. So
right,
like
yeah.
I would get my school done and then watch that for like 3-4 hours and just all the different shows on there.
That's dude, that's awesome. I can remember as a kid, always one of my favorite shows was on PBS. It was called Static Shock. Did you ever hear
No.
of Static Shock? It ran for a little while, but he was like, I was really into hip hop, and he's like this, like the only black superhero you could like find on cartoons.
Really?
And he was cool. He had this like static, like electricity powers and stuff, and it was an interesting show. I don't know why it ever got canceled. It was a fun show.
Man, yeah, I've never heard of that before.
But yeah, we've thought about like bringing it back a couple times, like doing like a 90s throwback and like
Yeah.
throwing some of that in, like sampling and making some beats out of it.
That'd be
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that was
So-
kind of thing too. Like the PBS, like when I was watching that, I was always curious of like, how are they putting titles on screen? I don't understand. Like, and that's kind of what sparked me wanting to get into filmmaking, was just watching those shows and then trying to figure out how to do that.
Really?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so the filmmaking side of things too, because you're the director of photography here, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay. So how much was filmmaking versus photography?
Yeah. So it actually started off as photography.
Okay.
'Cause I got a Samsung Galaxy Tab. It was like the first one that came out, and my parents bought one for me. And I just started taking like photos of everything, like going to the grocery store. If there was fruit, I would take photos of that. Really just starting to like figure out why some things look better than others. And I didn't know anything about composing or like Dutch angles or anything of photography. So it started out there. And then I realized that there was like a video editing app on there, which then I could start doing titles and things.
Gotcha.
So then from there it kind of grew, like directing the neighborhood kids, making short little like films.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it started in photography, moved to video. And then really I hadn't been touching photography to a large degree until like about 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
And then from there, it's kind of been both video and photography going on parallel tracks. Video being a little bit farther ahead in terms of intentionality,
Okay.
but I've always loved both. Both are fun mediums to practice and play with.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And for everyone tuning in, this is Signal and Flow. It's a show where we hang with business owners and creative people, talk about their ideas and experiences. And today I'm hanging out with Greg Brainard, director of photography at one of Ohio's dopest creative marketing agencies. He ascribes to all things minimalist, which we're going to talk about.
That's right.
And he's definitely one of the nicest guys I know. It says it on the site, but he is. He's also one of the nicest
Thank
guys
you.
I know. Dude, Greg, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on, man.
I'm excited to be here.
So before I get into like your background, right, and I want to delve into this photography side of things a little bit, because you said in your bio online it said you're a Jersey boy up until 7, yeah?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Grew up in Jersey, and till about 7-8 years old, my dad's job brought us out here. I didn't want to move out here just because it was a big, scary thing for a 7-year-old.
Right.
And very glad and grateful that we came out this way.
Very cool. Now, you said you're currently residing in Spencer, but did you grow up in Spencer or?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
So once we moved out, we moved to Spencer. We've lived there my whole life, basically the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's kind of like trying to keep busy. Kind of how I got into video is because of that.
Right. It's me and Taylor, we talk about it all the time. We're like, Ohio's so boring. Like there's like
Right.
nothing to do. So you like start trying to film whatever you can. And
Yeah,
makes creative people though. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
But I want to talk about vinyl a little bit here.
Great.
And I know like I've got to come in here and work a lot with you guys, actually, you know, putting in the acoustic panels, like getting to see like your atmosphere and your culture, having all kinds of conversations with Scott, your the CEO of the company. And I want to know what vinyl's story is from your perspective, right? And how long have you been with vinyl? I'll start with that
Yeah.
too.
So I've been here 2 years.
Okay.
Yep.
And vinyl's been in business for?
Since 2015. It was established in 2015.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess I haven't really known about them, but for 4 years or so.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's vinyl story from your perspective?
So my perspective, I came across vinyl 2 years ago. I hadn't heard of it. I didn't know they existed. until a place I was working at was going to have a project with them. And then from there, over the course of that project, I reached out to Scott to have lunch, started talking, and then I started following them more seriously. And then as things would turn out, I did a freelance project with them and came on the team at that point.
Very cool.
But they had been around for since 2015. Scott and Jared Crooks, the director of story, started it together in Scott's mom's basement. And just from there started growing. John Hunn came on as a creative director, and I came on about the 8th or 9th person, and now we're up to about 16, 17 people.
Growing like a weed, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy to think though, like in 2 years, you guys have like doubled in size.
We have.
That's absolutely crazy. What do you guys think, or what do you feel has made you guys just grow so rapidly? Is it the company culture here? Is it the work you're doing? Like what has made it scale so quickly?
Right. Yeah. So there's kind of a lot of things. So I think from the beginning, the foundation of Scott and Jared really trying to craft what do they want this to be, because they were both working full-time jobs. They left those jobs to start vinyl. And at that point, it was a clean slate. So whatever they wanted vinyl to be, that's what they could craft. So I think that kind of heart behind that of them being very intentional of what do we want this to be? Why are we doing it? Is like the foundation of everything. From there, just creating great experiences, both internally and also externally for clients. One of our core great craftsmanship is one of our core values. And that's kind of played off because most of our work comes from people seeing work. Who did that? And then we get in touch with them and then just start having great experiences. So that's kind of the ecosystem that's grown us. And then there's been things in terms of process that have kind of opened doors whenever we've been stuck, which have brought in new opportunities. And then as crazy it is, even stuff like COVID and the pandemic, like actually worked out very well for us because it shifted things, and we were able to kind of get on the forefront of that and try to figure things out. So yeah, a lot of different elements, but that foundation of crafting what we wanted vinyl to be at the beginning was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's super cool. You guys, I mean, you don't have a sales team, right? Or do you have anyone that's in sales, right? So a company that's almost doubled in size and doesn't even have anybody on sales. It's kind of a crazy thing that speaks on what you guys offer, like that, how you guys have really focused on over delivering. I mean, you guys over deliver on everything that I know that you've ever done. And so I want to touch a little bit on some of the things you guys have done, because I've known you guys for video, and I know you guys do a lot in marketing as well. So what are some of kind of the core things that has just drawn people to you? You know, no sales teams, people just like coming in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think again, it goes to kind of video has been the thing that gets our foot in the door. That's kind of like speaks the loudest, because videos people watch, they then share, people wonder where it came from. So video has been kind of the key to get into a lot of situations. But once we are in those situations, for example, a lot of times higher ed, like institutions will do a video for them. And then like, oh, you also do web development and you do marketing. And then from there, it grows into campaigns, which those then speak the loudest because people see those and they wonder who made that kind of content. So yeah, just kind of people noticing those things. That's what really kind of sparks new sales. And, thankfully, we're very blessed that we haven't had to like really pursue that to a great degree. But yeah, just people seeing this
direct
stuff.
Sales guys like calling
right?
up, like,
Yeah,
hey, it's final. Can you come?
Yeah.
I could, I totally see you. I don't think you would do well in a sales pitch.
I would not do nice. Well. Yeah, no. I'd be like, hey, do you want to buy this product? You don't? That's cool. Yeah, you don't have to, don't worry about calling back.
What would you recommend to somebody who's just starting out, maybe trying to build a creative agency, know some stuff about web design, know some video stuff? Like, what would be that first step you'd recommend to them in over delivering, like in really getting that value proposition right?
Right. Yeah. So I think one of the most valuable things they can do for both themselves and also for the client is to figure out processes and really establish those things. Because at that point, you can then over deliver purely just by having a good process from sales to final delivery. If you have a clear process, it's going to have clear expectations for yourself, for the client. You can clearly communicate what the project is. You can then execute better on that project. And I think that's where a lot of the over delivery comes from. Just having that solid base, you then generate more content than if you're just trying to figure it out and you're shuffling around. You're not going to get as good a product. Whereas if you have clear expectations and processes, it's going to help make a better product at the end of that experience.
Yeah. I'm going to go inception on you. What's your guys' process to make a process?
Oh man, yeah. So kind of like failing and messing things up.
Okay.
That's where a lot of processes come from. Things because a lot of times you don't know this thing's an issue until it's not working.
Right.
So we have like 4 times a year we meet as a team for quarterly meetings. Then we also have regular leadership meetings. Basically, like what's working, what's not working. When we identify what's not working, then we start brainstorming of all right, what could be the fix for that. And then from there, it just organically comes out. You can, at least from my mind, you start to break down into steps how to get through a problem. And then from there, you have a process. And really, it's just then documenting that thing and then communicating it to everyone and executing on it.
Very cool. And is that so? I know like one of you guys is one of Vinyl's breakthroughs that I've talked with Scott before in propositions that you would give to clients was the framework.
Mm-hmm.
So was that something kind of birthed out of that process? Like I need to build something out for that client.
Yeah. And that's what launched Vinyl. Like we were growing, then kind of hovering for a little bit, and that really kickstarted our growth. And the framework basically is it's a document for clients that before we would make a sale, Scott and Jared and everyone on the team was spending like hours and hours trying to figure out what this client needs. And then he realized, oh, let's make that something we can sell them. So then at that point, the client would buy it. It was very valuable information of what they needed to do from a marketing standpoint. And then who's going to do the marketing for them? We're right there. We've already made that relationship, and that really kind of unlocked the door and kicked us off there.
That's really cool. And so how many, like, I know, cause it's like that front end piece, how many of those frameworks have you guys put out?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So that's something I haven't been super involved with in terms of like that development of it. Off the top of my head, I know of like 6, but I don't know how many we've actually put out there.
Well, and the only reason I'm curious is I've seen some of those documents and they're massive. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah,
this isn't like hey, sign up on my site for this free PDF. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a really in-depth process. And I'm curious how it's developed since you did the first one, right? That process of like refining. Okay, we realized this didn't work the first time through the framework. Like, how did it drastically change now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't know that answer specifically for like the framework, but I can compare it similarly to what we do for video with like the video treatment, which is like, it's not a framework, but it's kind of the same idea of clearly communicating something to a client. Video framework specifically is like getting approval on creative direction and script. It's essentially a PDF form of the video, but that process came from like a lot of missteps and how can we like communicate something to the client so that as we're moving into production and post-production, they know we're on the right track. We know we're on the right track. And really that kind of birthed out of just like finding issues. How can we fix those issues and then putting it into that document and asking those questions and then giving answers to those as well.
That's really, really cool. I want to shift directions a little bit here and talk a little bit about internal content, right?
Right.
So you guys have a podcast too, right?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. It hasn't been released yet, but it's going to be coming soon. Yeah.
Really? Okay. What's it? Is it the Bears?
Digital Bards.
The Digital Bards. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So what? Now I'm curious. Like, what are you guys covering in this podcast? Have you pre-producing maybe like 5-6 episodes before you release, or what?
Yeah. So I think currently the first season is just kind of getting through internal revisions. I think there's going to be 9 or 10 episodes.
Okay.
But really just talking about all the things we do, talking about process, talking about like creative side, creative fences. Like there's this thing we do with the buyer's journey or the hero's journey. That's something we explore there. So it's a lot of the things that we do here at Vinyl, just kind of letting folks know about those and with the heart of like trying to give useful information for people to then execute on and for it to work. It works for us and we want it to work for them as well.
Gotcha. I apologize. My mind just totally blank.
It's all good.
The air came on and I was like, oh, it's going to get nice and chilly in here.
Yeah.
The podcast, as far as like, this is like actually more of a personal question for me. The distribution, like, have you guys looked into what you go about it? What's your guys' thoughts? I don't know if you're in charge of that or you even know where it's coming from. But.
Right. So I know some of it, that's more to the marketing side, but we're going to have like on our website, a specific page, obviously it's going to be, I think YouTube, Vimeo.
Okay.
Mainly YouTube, Vimeo for web hosting.
Gotcha.
But I believe we're creating like marketing funnels around that, so people can then kind of be shuffled through and kind of guided on that journey of, as they watch that first video, then staying in touch with them.
I got you. So is the podcast going to be for you guys? Like, is it video and audio? Like we have it on Spotify, iTunes, etc., or are you going to kind of keep it select to a market?
Right. I think so. The main format is video, like YouTube, but I believe we may be putting an audio form of it as well. I mean, at that point, you just export the audio, right? And then you put it online. So I'm not 100% certain it's going to be purely just audio, but I know for sure we'll have video and audio as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So is that the only form of internal content you guys are doing right now to get more of the vinyl brand out?
Right. Kind of. So currently, like Scott says this all the time, we're like shoemakers that aren't wearing shoes. Like we're doing stuff for other businesses and things, but we're not doing a ton for ourselves because there hasn't been like a great need to. But I mean, we just went through a whole brand relaunch, redid the website, new brand video.
Which I love the new logo, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Very, very awesome.
Yeah, we love it. But yeah, we don't do a ton of like marketing for ourselves. More recently, we have been for like higher ed conferences. We did a video series for that, just even small like social media stuff. We've always done like if we go as a team like Top Golf or something and play golf there, we'll make a video. So it's smaller stuff like that. Moving into the future, we're going to have more like people internally just like kind of regularly turning out that content.
Very cool. That's, I mean, I feel like it's a common thing among agencies. Like they just like, they'll go do the work for clients. They know how to do it. They can do it well.
Yep.
And then they're the last one on the lines to ever like get it done. And it's such an interesting, so like when I started out in marketing and video and all that stuff, I had a marketing agency with like, okay, we'll throw a name and LLC on it. And I'm like, what the heck is, like, I haven't marketed this, I haven't done anything, but we got all kinds of clients. We're doing all this work. So when we rebranded and went through the whole Soundfall thing, I'm like, we come first.
Nice.
Like we're going to work on that content side of things, but it's so common. And I think it's a testament to say, because a lot of people think, oh, I need to be putting content out. I want to know what your take on this is. Do you really need to be putting content out if you have that skill and you can deliver it for a client?
Right. Yeah. So I think it kind of changes on certain like situations. So I think you always need to have some kind of content going out because that's going to then lend to your validity. Like if people were to go to vinyl and we don't have anything there, like they might click off because is this place even real? So I think you have to have some degree, even if it's once a month, just putting some kind of post out there so people see you're live and you're not like you're still in the game. But I do think I think it should be born out of necessity. So having that baseline of putting something out there. If you need, not even necessity though, because I mean, you guys are doing well, but you're focusing on getting your own stuff out there.
Right.
So I think it's kind of comes down to style. Like if you want to put stuff out there and that's helping you creatively and it's making you happy, absolutely do it. If you don't want to put stuff out there or you don't have time to, you also don't need to feel super guilty about it.
Right.
So I think it kind of, depending on the situation, might have different answers, which is not an answer, but
yeah, right. Well, and that makes sense because but I feel like sometimes when I talk with new people, like, oh, I kind of want to go build an agency or I want to do some stuff, and like, but I don't put out any of my own content or whatever, and I'm like, just go film a video for a client and then share portions of that.
Absolutely,
because it's still showing you're doing stuff, but you don't have to be like so focused on yourself. It's like I don't know if it's a confidence issue or what, you know what I mean? But I mean, look at you guys. You're just now releasing some internal content, right? Maybe you started out with a couple of videos, but you grew it off of client work to 16 employees in a couple years. You know? But anyway, a testament to that. I'm going to shift gears again here because I want to talk a little bit about, a little bit more about you, like the director of photography, right?
Right.
So how long have you been playing with cameras?
Yeah. So we were talking about this earlier. When I was younger, I got a Samsung Galaxy Tab. I think it was like the first or second generation. And that was my first like kind of introduction to cameras. I'd always been interested with them. I started taking photos, started doing some video. And then from there, I got like my first like point and shoot camera, which was like the big rig at that point. And started playing with that.
You know what camera that was?
I think it was like, I don't even know. It was some kind of Lumix maybe, but it wasn't like a high end. It was like basically like that big, little brown square. You would like slide the front and then the lens would pop out. So I started playing with that, and then from there, just kind of slowly upgrading. I eventually got like a GH4, which was like my big step. Like it was the first camera I had bought.
Right.
And then from there, just kind of upgraded gear.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed just taking photos, taking video, and then that's through high school, you're supposed to figure out what you're going to do next in life, and that's what I ended up landing on, and then just really fell in love with it and just kind of grew from there.
Okay. Now, like, give me some, because you got into film with that too in high school, right?
Right.
Like, what were some of the high school films that you did?
Yeah. So the first ones, which are all on YouTube but privately listed because I don't want anyone to see them, it's just like stupid YouTube videos I would make of just like dancing or filming stuff, like skits with my dog, just things that were ridiculous. Yeah. But it was actually like what pioneered me learning how to use titles and transitions and like filming with one camera, multiple different angles, and learning all those kinds of things. And then I started getting into, I would cold turkey when I was like 15, 16, go to businesses. Do you want a commercial for $40? And then I would start doing that. Started getting more businesses. Started
That's a slamming deal.
Yeah, $40. Yep. And me, I'm like, am I charging too much? I think I am. I don't know. And like of the 10 people I asked at the time, like 2 accepted. And then from there I started growing. Got into the wedding game for a little bit. Okay. And then my parents actually own an ukulele shop, just like a small thing they run out of their house. They do a great job with that. But I started creating content for them, doing that. Then I started doing it full time at a hardware store, which was another great learning opportunity because it's not necessarily exciting what's in a hardware store. So trying to figure out how to make content that is exciting was a good challenge. It just kind of grew from there.
That's very cool. So now, I mean, with vinyl, obviously you have access to a little more gear, right? A little more stuff. Do you feel like those initial days, and especially like hardware store, like, do you feel like those initial creative challenges have upped your overall skill now that you have a higher production?
Oh,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean?
Yeah, and everything's just like, especially starting out, like I didn't know what frame rate was or anything, and I would try to figure out what this one thing is, and to understand that you need to know 4 other things. Right. So from there, it was just kind of, and this is every project, I always try to challenge myself, and like anytime I feel like I'm in a groove and I'm not needing to grow, that's when I know I'm in it. It's a problem because I'm not going to grow at that point. Yeah. So I try to identify some things that I can learn on, and things from past projects that I didn't do well. Those are then the next challenge to do better. But it's always a challenge. Like even when I started, it was the first time I had used like a cinema camera. We had the C200. Okay. And it was like in 2 weeks, I was going on a train to Nebraska, 24 hours to film at a racetrack. Okay. And I had never even used it before. So that was a big challenge, like crash course, figure out this camera, taking it home on the weekend, getting like the Steadicam suit with the arm, just going to parks, filming random people. Yeah. But yeah, there's always been a challenge. And I think that's important because that's really what sparks, especially when you're starting, but not especially. I think that needs to continue for whether you're like 16, 22, or 60 years old, always like challenging yourself and pushing yourself forward.
Well, I think it's important too, because, you look at that learning skill. Sometimes people get the common thing against tech people or people wanting to get into cameras like, oh, gear doesn't matter, right? It kind of matters once you start to come up with it, but it's that mindset of when starting out, like if you can't figure out how to make something simple great, then how are you going to make something great even greater? Right. You know what I mean? Like, how am I going to take this massive rig and make something phenomenal out of it? Right. When there were so many learning steps you needed to come up beforehand. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like if someone would have handed you a C200 when you were 16 doing these YouTube films, you probably would have given up right then, right? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like just learning to swim. You get in deeper and deeper water, and you learn those things and just those base elements, and then from there, the gear starts getting bigger and the project's more complicated, but it's just like reps, just like working out. You just keep going at it and then go from there.
No 700 back squats when you're just starting out, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You got a 700 back squat, right? I can tell.
Oh, clearly. Yeah.
So you're director of photography. Are you involved with the filming here still?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So my role, so I'm involved in every step of the video department. So meeting with clients, coming up with story development and like pre-production, to then I'm involved on shoots. Sometimes that's filming, sometimes that's directing. all the way to editing and then final delivery. So
It's a very deceptive title, director of photography.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
That's whenever people ask what I do, I'm like, oh, director of photography. And they're like, oh, so photos? I'm like, yeah, but not all the time. It's also video.
Right.
And
Okay.
I see the confusion in their eyes.
Right.
But yeah, I touch kind of every aspect of video and photography as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What do you like more, video or photography?
Oh, that's a good question. So I enjoy video for the challenge of it, and I love like working on a project. But I also love photography because it's way easier for me, at least. And like for photos, I can just unwind and edit photos and the shoots. Like there's not nearly as much gear. I would say I like video more though, just because that's where more of my heart lies with telling stories. You can still tell stories with photos, but it's a little more, not as much.
Right. You got to go write a wordy caption to get the point across.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, definitely video, because there's so many things in video, from pre-production to then production. And we were talking a little bit earlier, like setting up shoots and spaces, like setting up a fort. I love doing that.
Yeah, right.
I love hands-on being with the camera, but I also enjoy like directing people, directing my team and talent, and learning to like see where they are, if they're comfortable, how to make them comfortable, even down to like voiceover work. We do a lot of those, and identifying if that person's like where they are, hearing them, and then directing them to where they need to be.
Gotcha. Very cool. So it's, I mean, essentially you're writing stories, you know, like through video, getting to tell that. What do you, what would you say your biggest dislike of doing the video stuff is?
Yeah, it's another good question. So probably my dislike, so I said I love setting up. I hate transporting gear. That would probably be the thing, especially C-stands. Like I have a love-hate relationship with them. Like they're super useful, but I've pinched my hands so many times with those, dented up my car multiple times.
Oh my gosh.
So I would think like from a physical standpoint, setting things up.
Right.
Also like data organization. Like I love looking through the shots and getting it tagged and everything, but like ending a project for me, like it's not super complicated, but I hate doing it. It's
a process.
Yeah.
Like that's, you literally hit on the two things. Like we come in here and like for our audience, like they know, like we typically will film it in our studio where all my stuff is. And we transported the gear here today to do it in the vinyl studio.
Right.
And I'm like, do you guys have this part? Do you guys have that part? Cause I forgot it. Do you guys have this? Cause I forgot it. Like that transportation is so, it could be so complicated. Even when you have a nice organized system and setup, like you forget things moving back and forth from location to location.
Exactly.
And then, like you were saying with data organization, I have spent countless hours trying to figure out the best, like, do we get a NAS system? Do we run it? Do we back up hard drives? Do we compress the files that we don't use? We only keep the finals. Like there's just so many options. You never feel like the right one is. Do you feel like, or with vinyl, have you guys come up with any type of system there that works?
Yeah. So like, when you clean your room and you're going to clean it, you throw everything in the closet and you shut the door.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the data organization system for the video production department right now. We have we do have
just buy a bigger hard drive.
There you go. Yeah. Like we have process, like we have editing drives that we're working in and we back it up. So there's always two instances. And then once we're done, we'll archive a project to an archive drive and make a copy of that. But
I got you.
With like people working remote, and then like sometimes an editor will pass off a project, so then you have to transfer those. You end up getting like duplicates.
Yeah.
And we are just getting a growing like stock of like hard drives.
Yeah.
So that's something like we were looking at the NAS systems, and that's something we're currently working through as well.
Okay.
So there's a process in place.
Yeah.
It's good for now, especially when we were smaller, but like we're coming back with like terabytes of footage and trying to juggle that around in the current system. Like it's something we're going to be figuring out in the future pretty soon.
Right. And so I put in a small network attached storage system in our place. And
did you?
It helps. Yeah. But I can't, I need to get with like an IT or somebody who knows how to configure the cloud stuff, because I've had problems getting that remote. Like it works fine when it's on my network, but like getting that cloud access, it's interesting. And it's also, I mean, it's built basically on a Linux system or whatever. I'm a Mac user.
Nice.
I get Apple products.
That means you're a man of character.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This will be duplicated. It's going on Instagram Reels.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But when I get into like Windows, Linux systems, like I used to love doing that stuff in high school. And as I got older, I'm like, I just want a computer that works. You know what I mean? So I haven't quite figured out how to get that, but I do love being able to like just go to my drive, know it's there from any computer, and like grab that footage or archive it, go through, and then always have a solid state drive on hand to edit off of or whatever.
That's nice.
But yeah, so
yeah,
that sounds like the two struggles. What about gear for you guys? You like what's your favorite gear to use right now? And let's say first photography.
Yeah, photography. So definitely the Canon R5.
Okay.
So we were shooting on the 1DX, which is like Mark II, which is an awesome camera for photography.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that. But the R5 came out and we shifted to that. I've really enjoyed that. The mirrorless and then also having the full frame, high megapixel is just like really nice. Especially the thing I'm most excited about that is the IBIS. It's like internal built-in stabilization. Especially on night stuff. I've taken photos of buildings shot at like 2-second exposure, handheld at night, no tripod.
Wow.
And just like tack sharp, just because with the lens and the body communicating, stabilizing that and having that longer shutter speed is really nice. And then also just the mirrorless in general, it's smaller.
Yeah.
We've really enjoyed that for photography. It's been our main driver for that specifically.
That's really cool. Now, are you using EF glass or RF glass with that?
Kind of both right now.
Okay.
So we're in a transition of kind of slowly going to the RF because we got the C70s for video side. Right now we're running adapters with EF lenses, and I would say we have about split. Half is like our EF line, and then we also have the RF as well.
Gotcha. Those adapters are a pain in the ass though, like because I try to get it on with like my 70 to 200, and I'm like, I got a telescope here off my mirrorless camera.
It's true.
We got the DJI RS2 for just like doing some stabilization, gimbal stuff. And they're like, oh, you can balance a 70 to 200 lens on it. But I can't because of that extra extra inch and a half. I have to get like an extended adapter or something.
Right.
The first time I put it on it, it did like, you would get it set and then it would start to do this like fish wobble thing.
Oh no.
And it started going crazy, like wobbling back and forth. It wouldn't go crazy, but it would just start doing this. It was like a fish.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
like my 70 to 200 is going on a swim.
Like it's a creative choice. It's all right. Yeah.
What's your like, let's say favorite focal length right now for the photography then?
Yeah. So easily 35.
Okay.
I love the 35.
Right.
It's like, it's wide, but you can also punch in close and not get like super derpy angles or like distortion on faces. Like if you get real close, you're going to start to see that. But I love the 35. That's definitely my favorite one. And then I've also been enjoying the RF 15 to 35 because I can still get to 35, but having that 15 has been like actually a pleasant surprise, just getting that really wide angle, not fisheye, but still wide enough to get architecture or things like that.
Gotcha. Very cool. Have you got a chance to play with the F2, it's 28 to 70?
Yeah, it's like a goofy length. Not yet. That's probably the next one we'll get.
Okay.
Just because like the 70 to or 24-70 is kind of like the classic, but it's F2.8. So having like 28 to 70 F2, I think is like a really sweet spot. So,
right. Yeah. That's where I
is
love
that what you guys use?
No, I want to.
Okay.
So right now I use an F2 lens. It's a Sigma. I can't remember what it is, but it's 24 to 35. So I got a wide angle lens that gets to F2, and it's like a love-hate relationship because that lens isn't stabilized or anything. And like, even though I have IBIS, like sometimes it's a heavy ass lens for being, like a 24 to 35.
Yeah.
And, but the shots you get out of it when you get them right,
really,
they're so crisp. I don't know. Like I like having that F2 option to get right down in there. Yeah. So for product photography, I've played with it, but definitely. I definitely want to play with that. Cool. But
do you notice on that lens a lot of any vignetting or anything?
Yes, at 24. If you get into like 28, 30, like it seems to kind of correct itself.
Okay.
But again, like I kind of like that vintage look.
That can be nice.
Like it's a nice, cool thing when it's wide.
Mm-hmm.
And usually we're shooting in darker situations, so it's not as noticeable off the bat. But
makes sense.
Yeah, there is a little bit of the vignetting on there. I'm curious to see how it does with the 28 to 70.
Yeah.
But
yeah, me too.
I have like one more question for you, and that's really on your end. Like, what would you do if you were to start from scratch today? Right? Say like, final's gone, no gear or anything, but you had all the skills, you had same knowledge, all that stuff. Like, what would be your first step?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I know the answer for that if I was just starting off and didn't have any of this knowledge. But if it was just me, I would probably be first off would be establishing processes and it would probably be many of the processes that we already have in place, like if I had that knowledge. But that would hold me accountable. And then also for the clients, I could then like intelligently talk with them and like explain a project to them. I think having that foundation and understanding would help, because I would be doing freelancing if I wasn't here. Right. So having that information would kind of structure that for me.
Yeah.
The other thing I would do, and my brother's an artist in California, he did this, and I think I would also love to do this, is just like take a year off and just like do the craft just for the sake of enjoying it and learning it.
Yeah.
That was when I started off. That's why I got into it. I just love doing it, and I still love doing it, but it's a little bit different once you're like on a project and you have like a very tight creative fence. But just being able to take time to explore and kind of express myself that way, learn things, try different things. That would probably be the first thing, if obviously like you need money in order to do that for a year. But that would probably be the first one.
Just go score a big old client with all the knowledge that you have and be like, work it into the contract where they pay for the gear, right?
Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, gear. That's like, if I wasn't here, I'd be shooting on my phone.
Right. But you could achieve so much from an iPhone 12 these days. There's been times now with this iPhone 12 Pro where I've debated, like, do I really need to get the DSLR out? Like, can we just like film this on the phone?
The stuff they're doing like in the phone is unbelievable. Like all of the technical side of that.
And like how well it exposes for photos. It's kind of blowing me away even on this.
Right.
I got the iPhone 12 Pro and it's like, I'm taking photos. I'm like, man, this is like, it's going to take me a minute to dial this in on a camera. I got to get an ND filter. I got to get this, get the polarizer. Like, iPhone's like, well, we kind of got it.
Yeah. Okay. And then even like with the Pro camera, like you're still not there yet. That's then like time in post-production. This is just like clicking a button and it's done.
Crazy. And they have Apple RAW coming out too, right?
Oh, do they?
Yeah. I think I saw an announcement somewhere where it's going to be more RAW photos you can use.
That's killer.
But yeah, man, I just I appreciate you coming like to hang out, kick it with me today on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been great.
Dive a little bit into Vinyl's processes, a little bit more about your background, dude. Where do you do freelance work still? Or are you just doing stuff for Vinyl?
I don't. Yeah. So once I started just full time in a year, and I've thought about doing freelance stuff, but just with time, it's not there.
So are you? I want to give people the contact information. Right? Are you on Instagram or just Vinyl on Instagram?
What's on Instagram? Just Gregory Brainard. Okay. Gregory Brainard.
Cool. We'll link that up in the show notes. And then Vinyl, they're probably Vinyl Marketing on Instagram too, right?
Yep. That's right.
There's something I was going to point out to you guys, that new reel or your new 2020 reel or whatever.
Yeah. The demo reel.
Yeah. You can't see it when you're on mobile for some reason on the website.
Interesting.
You have to be on the desktop to go. You guys got to go check out the reel. It's really, really awesome. I love how well done you guys' reel was for 2020, but you can't find it on a phone.
Yeah, that's no good.
It's private. It's private on Vimeo. So like, I can't just go to the Vimeo channel and find it and watch it. So like if I'm on my phone, I can't see it there. But if I'm on desktop, I can go find it on that thing. Maybe point it out to your web designer.
Yeah, thank you. We'll do that. If you just want to go through every page real quick and just give us like a report,
like the synopsis
awesome.
feedback. Hey, I couldn't find this. Cool, man. Well, dude, thanks for kicking it today.
Thank you.
And it's been great. Maybe we'll have you guys on another episode.
That'd be awesome.
Get like 4 or 5 SM7Bs around here and have Scott in the conversation. Have John tell a bunch of stories. Have a few drinks, have a good time, right?
Absolutely. We'd love that.
Cool. All right, man. Well, hey, dude, it's been a pleasure. And we're signing off. That's a wrap.